I'm Daniel, 34, and I run a fitness supply business. Not some cheap drop shipping hustle, but an actual company that provides high-quality gym equipment to professional training facilities. 7 years ago, I started this from the ground up, working insane hours, living off ramen and protein shakes. Now, I own multiple warehouses, employ a solid team, and have built something I'm genuinely proud of. But while I was grinding, my family was sitting on the sidelines, watching like it was a spectator sport, until they realized they could cash in. My dad, Richard, used to run a boxing gym back in the day. He was a great trainer, but a terrible businessman. When I turned 18, he conveniently developed a back problem that somehow never stopped him from playing golf, but made it impossible to work. My mom, Linda, has never worked a day in her life. She always had an excuse: too old, too tired, too much stress. And then there's my sister, Emily, the walking definition of entitlement. She's 30 now, but somehow, in my parents' eyes, she's still their helpless little girl who needs endless support. Over the years, she's started and abandoned more career paths than I can count. Beauty school? Too hard. Personal training? Too demanding. Selling handmade candles? Too boring. Every time she failed, my parents bailed her out. Meanwhile, I had to figure things out for myself. When I was 23, I landed my first real contract. It wasn't buy a mansion money, but it was enough to cover my own bills. That's when the requests started. Danny, the mortgage payment is a little tight this month. The electric company is threatening to shut us off. You know your father's back, he can't work. It started small, just covering a bill here and there. Then, before I knew it, I was paying for everything. Mortgage, utilities, car payments, property taxes, random emergencies. Emily, of course, never chipped in. She was too busy figuring out her passion while I was footing the bill for 4 grown adults. For years, I justified it. Family helps family, my mom would say. And I wanted to be a good son, a responsible brother. But looking back, I wasn't helping, I was enabling. The worst part? My success was never celebrated. Whenever I reached a milestone, expanding to a second warehouse, signing a major contract, my parents barely acknowledged it. But if Emily held down a job for more than 2 weeks, full family dinner, cake, and praise like she cured cancer. And then came the moment that shattered everything. One Wednesday morning, I was preparing for the biggest meeting of my career. A major retailer was interested in signing an exclusive deal, 8-figure contract level of big. My wife, Sarah, a physical therapist, had an emergency with one of her clients and had to fly out of town last minute. Our usual nanny was sick. No problem, right? My parents live 15 minutes away, unemployed, always saying how much they miss their grandson. I called my mom. Hey mom, I need a favor. Could you and dad watch Logan for the night? Just one night. She laughed. Oh, Danny, we're not babysitters. We raised our kids. It's not our job to take care of yours. I was speechless. 5 years of paying every bill, keeping a roof over their heads, and they couldn't watch their own grandson for one night. I felt something snap inside me. I drove straight to their house, no warning. Pulled up into the driveway, and there it was, Emily's beat-up Honda Civic. I walked in, and guess what I saw? My parents on the floor, playing with Emily's kids. She was lounging on the couch, scrolling through her phone like a queen, while my parents doted on her children. I just stood there in my suit, taking it all in. Mom's face turned pale when she saw me. Danny, what are you doing here? I folded my arms. Funny, I thought you weren't babysitters. Emily didn't even look up. Some of us actually need help sometimes, Danny. Not all of us are obsessed with money. That was it. The moment I saw everything crystal clear, I took out my phone, pulled up my banking app, and started reading out the numbers. Let's talk about struggle, Emily. Let's talk about the $210,000 I've given mom and dad over the last 5 years. The room fell silent. The silence in the room stretched out. My mom was shifting uncomfortably. My dad rubbed his temples. Emily? She was still staring at her phone like she hadn't just heard the number I threw out. $210,000. 210 grand. That's what I had spent keeping their lives running, while getting next to nothing in return. Finally, my dad cleared his throat. Son, you're making too big a deal out of this. Your sister needed help. I let out a small laugh, shaking my head. And I didn't? My voice was calm, but inside, I was done. I needed help for one night. Not even money, not a favor, just one night of watching Logan. But that was too much. Meanwhile, you're here, playing house with Emily's kids, like you're on full-time payroll. Mom's voice softened, trying to play the guilt card. Danny, honey, it's different. Emily's a single mother and she's struggling. I took a step closer. Oh, really? Because as far as I can tell, she's been struggling for the last 10 years, while I've been the one bailing everyone out. Where was this energy when I was sleeping in my car, trying to get my business off the ground? Where was the support then? Emily finally looked up from her phone. Oh my God, Danny, do you ever stop playing the victim? You act like you're the only one who has problems. I exhaled through my nose, trying not to lose it. You're right, Emily. I should be more grateful. Paying for 2 households, covering your debt, and making sure mom and dad can keep golfing while I work 16-hour days, yeah? I'm the problem. She rolled her eyes. Must be nice to have money to throw in people's faces. That's when something clicked. It wasn't just entitlement. Emily actually believed she deserved this. She had convinced herself that my success was just luck, and I owed it to her to share. You want to talk about money? I pulled up my bank statements and started reading off numbers. Mortgage, $2,500 a month. Utilities, $450 a month. Car payments for 2 cars, $900 a month. Insurance, $400 a month. Property taxes, $6,000 a year. Random emergencies, $30,000 total. And then, of course, the $50,000 I spent on Emily's various business ventures that never lasted more than 3 months. I glanced up. Mom's lip was trembling. Dad wouldn't meet my eyes. Emily looked annoyed but not embarrassed. Not yet. So please, I said, slipping my phone back in my pocket. Explain to me again how I'm the one throwing money around. The guilt trip tactics kicked in full force. Mom started in first. Danny, sweetheart, we never meant to take advantage of you. We just, no. I cut her off. You didn't mean to, but you did. For years. And you know what? That's on me. I let it happen. I let you treat me like an ATM while Emily coasted through life with 0 consequences. My dad finally spoke up. Son, let's be reasonable. We're family. We can figure something out. I gave him a long, hard look. We sure can, Dad. Here's how. I'm done. The room froze. I'm done paying the mortgage. I'm done covering your bills. I'm done financing Emily's endless career changes. I'm done being the only responsible adult in this family while getting nothing but disrespect in return. Emily scoffed. Yeah, okay, sure. You always say that, but you'll cave like you always do. I smiled. Not this time. And then I walked out. That night, I sat in my office, staring at my laptop. The numbers were all there in front of me. 5 years of payments, loans, and bailouts. I could have bought a second house, taken my wife on a dream vacation, invested in more equipment. Instead, I had funneled it into a black hole of entitlement. Sarah walked in, holding Logan, who was finally asleep. She took one look at me and knew something was up. It happened, didn't it? I nodded. Yeah. She sat beside me, rubbing my arm. So what's the plan? That's what I love about Sarah. No drama. No, I told you so. Just straight to solutions. By 3:00 a.m., I had mapped everything out. Step 1, cut them off. First thing the next morning, I called my accountant and lawyer. I removed myself from every financial tie. The mortgage, utilities, car payments, all gone. Their bank accounts, no more automatic transfers. Step 2, brace for impact. I knew my phone would explode the second they realized the money was no longer rolling in. And I was right. By noon, my work phone had 37 missed calls. My personal phone, dozens of texts. My mom, my dad, Emily, each message more desperate than the last. Mom, Danny, please. We didn't mean to upset you. We're in a tough spot. Dad, son, this is rash. Let's talk like men. Emily, wow. Really? So you're just gonna let your own family suffer? Nice. Not one mention of Logan. Not one apology for the babysitting incident. Just panic over losing their meal ticket. And then Emily took it nuclear. She started calling my employees. My warehouse manager called me, sounding confused. Danny? Some lady named Emily just showed up here, demanding to talk to you. She's making a scene. I sighed, rubbing my temples. Tell security to escort her out. A few hours later, my lawyer sent me a draft of a cease and desist letter. If she kept harassing me or my business, she'd have bigger problems than just losing free money. Step 3, let them feel it. It didn't take long for the cracks to show. Within 2 weeks, their house was in pre-foreclosure. The utilities? Cut off. The car? Repossessed. And my dad's mysterious back injury? Well, it healed up real quick when he realized he needed a job. Mom found work at a local diner, the same one she used to complain about. Emily? She had to move back in with them 3 broke adults, 2 kids, 1 house they couldn't afford. And the best part? They still had the nerve to post a sob story on Facebook. Mom wrote a dramatic post about how I had abandoned my family in their time of need. The comments were gold, people falling for it, saying how sad it was that money had changed me. So, I dropped the receipts, a single post. In the interest of transparency, here's a breakdown of what I've paid for over the past 5 years. Every mortgage payment, every utility bill, every loan that never got repaid. The total? Over $210,000. If you still think I'm in the wrong, I invite you to cover their expenses for the next 5 years. Then, I attached screenshots, bank transfers, texts, Emily's requests for money. The fallout? Glorious. Family members who hadn't spoken to me in years started apologizing. Mom and Dad? Radio silence. Emily deleted her Facebook. And me? For the first time in years, I felt free. The silence from my family didn't last long. 3 days after I dropped the receipts on Facebook, my mom sent an email. A full-length essay, dripping with guilt, regret, and of course, 0 actual accountability. Subject: we need to talk, Danny. Danny, I don't know what's happened to you. You used to be such a kind and generous son. We always supported you when you were growing up, and this is how you repay us. Cutting off your own family, humiliating us online. Your father's stress levels are through the roof. Emily is devastated. We are on the verge of losing the house, Danny. Your childhood home. Is that what you want? For your family to be homeless? I don't understand how you can be so cold. Please, be reasonable. Let's work something out. We love you. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the screen. Not one word of apology. Not one acknowledgement of what they did. Just the usual manipulation, as if I was the villain for finally saying enough. I didn't respond. That same evening, my dad sent a text. Dad, Danny, your mother is very upset. I know things got out of hand, but let's be men and handle this properly. Come by tomorrow. We'll talk things over like adults. Like men. Like adults. I laughed out loud. Where was this energy when I was paying all their bills? Where was the respect when they treated me like an ATM? I didn't respond to him either. And then Emily. Now, Emily wasn't the type to apologize. She was the type to throw a tantrum first, then play the victim. So when she showed up at my office unannounced, I wasn't surprised. One of my employees knocked on my door looking uncomfortable. Danny, there's a woman outside demanding to see you. Says she's your sister? I sighed, rubbing my temples. Tell her I'm busy. She's not leaving. Of course not. I stepped out into the lobby, and there she was, Emily, arms crossed, foot tapping, looking like she was about to throw hands. The second she saw me, she launched into it. This is insane, Danny. What is wrong with you? You seriously think you can just cut us off like that? I stared at her, unimpressed. I don't think I know. And I did. Her face twisted in outrage. Mom and Dad are losing the house. I shrugged. Shouldn't be a problem. They're both perfectly capable of working. And so are you. Her jaw dropped. Are you serious right now? Dead serious. She let out a bitter laugh, shaking her head. Wow. Just wow. You're really gonna let your own family suffer over some stupid grudge? I folded my arms. Let me ask you something, Emily. If I lost my business tomorrow, if I needed help, how much do you think Mom and Dad would give me? She opened her mouth, closed it, looked away. That's what I thought. You got years of free money out of me, Emily. You blew through $50,000 in business ideas that you abandoned in weeks. You never paid me back. You never even said thank you. And when I needed a single favor one night, of babysitting, you all laughed in my face. She clenched her fists. You're so full of yourself. Just because you have money. You think you're better than everyone. I exhaled sharply. This has nothing to do with money. This is about respect. And you know what? I finally respect myself enough to stop letting you all leech off me. Her nostrils flared. You're gonna regret this, Danny. I smirked. I really won't. I turned and walked away. Security escorted her out. After that, things escalated fast. Mom and Dad's house officially went into foreclosure. Their car was repossessed. The electricity got shut off for a week. And suddenly, their friends, the ones who used to praise them for having such a successful son, weren't so sympathetic anymore. Turns out, when people learned the actual numbers behind what I'd been paying, they stopped feeling bad. Mom's best friend, Susan, even commented under my Facebook post, "Linda, I love you," but I had no idea. Danny was carrying all of this for so long. That's not right. You guys should have been more grateful. Public humiliation? Check. Meanwhile, my dad's pride took a massive hit. For years, he hid behind his bad back as an excuse not to work. But when the money ran dry, suddenly, he was miraculously able to get a job at a local gym. Mom? She picked up shifts as a hostess at Applebee's, the same restaurant she used to complain about whenever I took them out to dinner. And Emily? Oh, Emily was struggling. She had to sell her designer handbags, cancel her gym membership, move into a tiny apartment with her kids. And her biggest blow? Her ex-husband found out that I wasn't helping with child support like she claimed. Yeah, turns out Emily had been lying to him for years, telling him I was covering for her, so he didn't have to pay as much. When I cut her off, her entire lie unraveled. Her ex took her back to court, and the judge, not amused. She lost primary custody of her kids. Now, don't get me wrong, I feel bad for my nieces and nephews. None of this is their fault. But Emily? She dug her own grave. And then, just when I thought things couldn't get any worse for them, Mom made a final desperate move. She reached out to Sarah. I came home late from work one night and found my wife sitting at the kitchen counter, arms crossed, looking pissed. I set my keys down. "What's wrong?" She slid her phone across the table. It was a long message from my mother. "Sarah, please talk to Danny. I know he listens to you. This has gone too far. We are struggling, and he won't even speak to us. He's angry, and we don't know how to fix it. Please, convince him to see reason. I don't want to lose my son over a misunderstanding." I scoffed. "A misunderstanding?" Sarah raised an eyebrow. "Oh, it gets better. Scroll down." I did. At the bottom of the message, my mother had included a link to a GoFundMe for themselves, titled, "Help a Struggling Family Get Back on Their Feet." I stared at the screen, then back at Sarah. "You've got to be kidding me." She shook her head. "Danny, they're asking for $50,000. I let out a slow, disbelieving laugh. 50 grand, after everything. I looked back at my wife. "Well, guess one finally know my price tag." Sarah smirked. "Oh, you're worth way more than that." I kissed her forehead. "Damn right I am." Then I grabbed my phone and typed out my final message to my mother. "Delete the GoFundMe. Find real jobs. Never contact Sarah again. We're done." And for the first time in my life, I blocked her number. Blocking my mom's number should have given me peace. Instead, it just meant she had to find new ways to cause chaos. The GoFundMe? Oh, it blew up, but not in the way she hoped. When I sent my final message telling her to delete it, I expected her to listen. Instead, she doubled down. She kept the GoFundMe up and started spreading lies. In the description, she painted herself as the tragic mother of a selfish, ungrateful son who had abandoned his struggling family. It was disgusting. She wrote about how I had cut them off over a small misunderstanding, and how they were on the verge of homelessness while I lived in luxury. The best part? She never mentioned the $210,000 I had spent on them. She conveniently left out the fact that my dad's back injury healed the second the money stopped, or that Emily lost custody because of her own stupidity. And she definitely didn't mention that the only reason they were broke was because they had spent years relying on me instead of managing their own lives. Instead, she played the part of the helpless mother, betrayed by her own child. And for a moment, it worked. People started donating. Friends, distant relatives, even some random strangers. It wasn't much, a few hundred here, a few hundred there. But then, someone sent me the link, and my blood boiled. Because right there, in the comments section, my mom was responding to donors with even more lies. One comment from a distant cousin: "This is awful. I thought Danny was doing well. Why would he just abandon you guys?" Mom's reply: "He changed. Ever since he got married, he started acting differently. Sarah doesn't like us and has turned him against his own family. It breaks my heart." I read it twice, just to be sure I wasn't imagining things. She was blaming my wife, Sarah, the woman who had been nothing but kind to them, the woman who had encouraged me for years to at least try setting boundaries instead of completely cutting them off. And now, they were scapegoating her, because they knew it would make people more sympathetic. That was it. That was the moment I officially lost any remaining love I had for them. I was done playing nice. The next morning, I made one phone call to my lawyer. I sent him screenshots of the lies my mom was spreading. I forwarded every text and email from the past month. I even gathered proof of all the money I had given them over the years. His response, "Oh yeah, we can shut this down real quick." Within 48 hours, GoFundMe took the page down for fraudulent claims. And the money? Refunded. My mother went nuclear. She started blowing up my work email, leaving voicemails on my office phone since I had blocked her number. Each message was more unhinged than the last. First, she went for guilt, Danny. How could you do this to us? We needed that money. We raised you. We gave you everything. And now you're trying to make us suffer? Then she switched to anger. You are a selfish, arrogant little brat. You think you're so much better than us? Newsflash, you wouldn't be where you are today without us. And finally, desperation. Please, Danny. We don't have anywhere else to turn. We're begging you. I deleted every single message without responding. But then she crossed a line. She showed up at my house. It was a Saturday morning. I was outside in the backyard with Logan, tossing a football, when I heard banging on the front door. Sarah was inside, but before she could answer, I walked around the house and saw her, Mom, standing on my porch, wearing oversized sunglasses, arms crossed, looking furious. The moment she saw me, she launched in. "You're a coward, Danny." I folded my arms. "And you're trespassing," she scoffed. "Seriously? After everything we've done for you?" I let out a sharp laugh. "What exactly have you done for me, Mom? Go on, list it." She bristled. "We raised you, and I repaid you 210,000 times over." She flinched. Then she dropped the act. "You think you're better than us now, huh? Just because you have money? Just because you have a big house and a perfect little family?" I clenched my jaw. "Get off my property." She took off her sunglasses, eyes wild. "Your father is sick, Danny." "Yeah, he's so sick he was seen playing golf last week," I shot back. "And by the way, Emily's ex-husband reached out to me. Guess what? He told me everything. About how she lied. About how she tricked him into paying less child support by saying I was covering it. That's why she lost custody, not because of me." Mom's face turned red. You don't understand. I understand perfectly." I cut her off. "And I don't care. You need help? Find jobs. Figure it out. The Bank of Danny is closed. Forever." She just stood there, seething. Then she spat out her final attempt at control. "You're going to regret this. One day, when you need us, we won't be there for you." I laughed in her face. "Mom, you were never there for me. The only thing you ever did was take. And now that it's over, you can't handle it." She stormed off, muttering under her breath. And as I watched her leave, something unexpected happened. I felt nothing. No guilt, no sadness, just relief. Because for the first time in years, I was finally, truly free. For the first time in my life, I wasn't carrying my family's problems on my back. And you know what? It felt damn good. Mom's dramatic exit from my house was supposed to be her final power move, some parting shot to make me feel guilty. Instead, all it did was confirm that I had made the right decision. But of course, she wasn't done. Less than a week later, she found a new way to humiliate herself. One morning, I got a text from my Uncle Rob. Now, Uncle Rob wasn't someone I talked to often. He was my dad's older brother, the black sheep of the family, the one who moved across the country and barely kept in touch. So when I saw his name pop up on my phone, I already knew something was off. "Uncle Rob, hey, Danny. Just saw something interesting on Facebook. Thought you might want to take a look." He sent me a screenshot. I opened it, and immediately my stomach twisted. It was a post from Mom's account in our extended family group. It read, "Family, we are reaching out in our darkest hour. Danny has turned his back on us, and we are on the verge of losing everything. We raised him with love, supported him, and this is how he repays us, by abandoning his own blood. If anyone has it in their heart to help, we would be forever grateful. We are desperate." And then right under that, a link to her Venmo. She was begging for money, not just from strangers, but from extended family. I let out a slow exhale, rubbing my temples. Sarah, who was sitting across from me at the kitchen table, raised an eyebrow. "What now?" I slid my phone over to her. She read the post, blinked, looked back at me, then she burst out laughing. "Are you kidding me?" She choked out between breaths. I smirked. "Nope, this is real life." She shook her head. "So, let me get this straight. First, they try to scam strangers with a GoFundMe. That fails. Then, they show up here and try to guilt trip you. That fails. And now, they're panhandling to the entire family?" "Yep." "Wow," she said, still grinning. "This is getting embarrassing." I sighed. "It's always been embarrassing. I just never saw it before." She reached over, squeezed my hand. "So, what are you gonna do?" I thought about it for a second. Then I picked up my phone and called Uncle Rob. Now, Uncle Rob wasn't the warmest guy. He had always been distant, never got involved in family drama, but he hated scammers. So when he answered, I skipped the small talk. "Hey, Uncle Rob, got a minute?" "Yeah," he said, his voice gruff. "Let me guess, your mom's latest stunt?" I sighed. "Yeah." He let out a dry chuckle. "Knew she'd pull something like this. I warned your dad years ago that their lifestyle wasn't sustainable. Guess they thought you'd fund them forever." "Well, not anymore," I said firmly. "Good," he said. "So what's the plan?" I grinned. "You still close with Aunt Lisa?" Now, Aunt Lisa was Mom's older sister, and if there was one person my mom was terrified of, it was her. Uncle Rob chuckled. "Oh yeah, she'll love this." An hour later, the entire family chat exploded. Because Aunt Lisa, she didn't just call my mom, she exposed her. Right there in the comments section of Mom's begging post, she wrote, "Linda, you should be ashamed of yourself. You have a perfectly capable husband and a daughter who refuses to work. And instead of taking responsibility, you're blaming Danny, the son who paid your mortgage for 5 years, the son who covered your bills while raising his own child. I've seen the receipts. We all have. You don't need help. You need a reality check." It was brutal. And the best part? She wasn't the only one. Other relatives started chiming in. "Wait, Danny was paying their bills this whole time? I thought they were just struggling recently. But for 5 years? Linda, this is disgusting. You're a grown woman, get a job." The comments piled up. And just like that, Mom's pity party was over. Within an hour, she deleted the entire post. And I sat back in my chair, feeling lighter than I had in years. But if you thought that was the end of it, you don't know my mother. Because the very next day, she pulled her final desperate move. She tried to guilt trip Logan. Now, Logan was only 5. He barely understood what was happening. But Mom? She didn't care. That afternoon, Sarah was out running errands, and I was in the backyard with Logan when the house phone rang. I let it go to voicemail. Then, a minute later, my work phone rang. Then my personal phone. I frowned. Something was off. I checked my voicemail. It was my mom's voice, but she wasn't talking to me. She was talking to Logan. "Hi, sweetie. It's Grandma. I miss you so much. I don't know why your daddy won't let me see you anymore, but I just want you to know I love you. You can always call Grandma if you need me, okay? I wish I could see you, but your daddy won't let me. It makes me so sad." My hands clenched into fists. Logan was sitting on the grass, playing with his toy trucks, completely unaware. But me? I saw exactly what she was doing. She was trying to plant seeds in his little head, trying to turn him against me before he was old enough to understand the truth. I took a deep breath. Then, I walked inside, grabbed my phone, and did the one thing I should have done years ago. I blocked her number. I blocked Dad's number. And finally, I blocked Emily. And just like that, they were gone. That night, Sarah found me on the couch, staring at the ceiling. She sat beside me. "What's on your mind?" I exhaled. I think it's really over now." She smiled. "How does it feel?" I thought about it. For years, I had carried them financially, emotionally, mentally. And now I was finally free, so I smiled back. It feels like I can breathe again. After I blocked them, my world got quiet. For the first time in years, I wasn't waking up to manipulative texts, guilt trip emails, or unexpected bills landing in my inbox. And let me tell you, it felt incredible. Sarah noticed the difference immediately. "You're more relaxed," she said one night as we sat on the couch, Logan asleep upstairs. I shrugged. "Probably because I'm not waiting for the next financial disaster to hit." She smirked. "Or the next dramatic phone call." I chuckled. "Yeah, that too." For the first time, I was living my own life, not being someone else's safety net. But just because I was done with them didn't mean they were done with me, because 2 months later, Mom and Dad lost the house. Now I knew it was coming. They had no income, no savings, and no backup plan because they never thought this day would come. At first, they tried to work things out. Dad was still barely employed, and Mom was clinging to her hostessing job at Applebee's. But reality hit fast. The utilities were cut off. The bank started calling, and without me to swoop in with a last-minute payment, it all fell apart. I found out through Aunt Lisa, the one who had exposed Mom's GoFundMe scam. She called me one afternoon, and I picked up, already knowing it was going to be good. "Danny, you are not going to believe this," she said, barely able to contain her laughter. "Oh, I believe anything at this point," I said, smirking. "What happened?" She giggled. "Your parents are living with Emily now." I nearly dropped my phone. "Wait, what?" She cackled. "Yup, they lost the house. And guess who took them in? Your golden child sister." I stared at the ceiling, stunned. "So let me get this straight," I said slowly. "The parents who enabled Emily's entire life, who spent years treating me like an ATM while excusing every single bad decision she made, are now living on her couch?" Aunt Lisa was laughing so hard she could barely breathe. "Oh, and it gets better," she wheezed. "Emily is already complaining about it to everyone." Now I was grinning. What's she saying? She says they're too demanding, that Dad complains about the TV volume, and Mom expects her to cook and clean for them. I shook my head. Wow. It's almost like supporting grown adults who refuse to take care of themselves is exhausting. Aunt Lisa howled. "Oh, honey, I hope you're enjoying this as much as I am." I was. I really, really was. As much as I wanted to sit back and enjoy their downfall, I also knew this wasn't the end. Because people like my parents, they don't learn, they scheme. And sure enough, a few weeks later, I got an unexpected message from Emily's ex-husband, Jake. We weren't friends, but we had talked a few times after he found out. Emily had been lying about child support, so when his name popped up on my phone, I had a feeling it was something big. I picked up. "Danny," he said. "Heads up, man. Your mom and dad are trying to move in with me." I nearly choked on my coffee. "Excuse me?" "They showed up at my house last night," he said, sounding exhausted. Emily kicked them out. Apparently, they were driving her crazy, so she told them to leave. Next thing I know, they're at my doorstep, telling me they have nowhere to go. I rubbed my temples. "Jake, I am so sorry." "Oh, don't worry," he said dryly. I told them to screw off. I let out a relieved breath. "Thank God," he sighed. "Dude, I don't know how you dealt with them for so long. They spent 20 minutes trying to guilt me into letting them stay, saying they raised my kids and deserve respect. I finally had to threaten to call the cops before they left. That sealed it for me. They weren't desperate. They were entitled. Even after everything, they still expected people to take them in." I shook my head. "Thanks for letting me know, man. And I'm sorry they even tried that." "No worries," Jake said. "Just thought you'd want to hear it from me before they tried something else." We hung up. And for the first time in months, I actually felt pity for them. Not enough to help, of course, but enough to realize that they had done this to themselves. As the months passed, I focused on my own life. Logan started kindergarten. My business continued to grow. Sarah and I even bought a vacation home somewhere just for us, with no memories of my parents attached to it. It felt good to move forward. But one day, I was out running errands when I saw him. My dad. He was walking into a diner, wearing an old, wrinkled jacket, looking like he had aged 10 years in the past few months. For a second, I hesitated, and then I parked my car, walked inside, and sat down at a booth near the back. He didn't see me at first. He was sitting alone, staring at a cheap cup of coffee, looking utterly defeated, and for a moment, I wondered if he had finally realized what he had lost. Then the waitress came over, and I overheard him say, "Yeah, my son used to take care of us, but his wife turned him against us." And just like that, I was done for good. Because even at his lowest, he still couldn't take responsibility. Still couldn't accept that he had dug his own grave. I quietly stood up and walked out. He never even saw me. And you know what? I never looked back. It's been a year now since I cut them off. And let me tell you, my life has never been better. Sarah and I are stronger than ever. Logan is thriving. My business is doing better than I ever imagined. And my family? Well, last I heard, Mom and Dad are bouncing from motel to motel, still refusing to get real jobs. Emily is still struggling, barely making ends meet without someone else footing the bill. And me? I sleep peacefully every night, knowing that I owe them nothing, because for the first time in my life, I am free. Story 2. My mother-in-law forbade me from attending my own anniversary celebration. Her intention was to present my husband to his future spouse. Little did she know, I had a surprise news that left her stunned. The crystal champagne flute shook in my palm as I saw my mother-in-law's lips twist into that familiar sneer. 7 years of marriage to her precious son, and I still couldn't shake the chill that ran down my spine whenever she looked at me that way. My name is Jennifer, and I've spent nearly a decade being the family disappointment. The woman who dared marry into the illustrious Willis family without the proper pedigree or bank account to match. I simply can't wait for next month's anniversary party, Ivan announced, swirling her wine with practiced elegance. I am planning the most amazing surprise. There was silence in the dining room. Nothing seemed to hold its breath, not even the soft clink of sterling silver against fine china. I caught my husband Landon's questioning glance from across the table, but he quickly looked away. He always glanced aside. Mother, we agreed. No surprises this year, Landon remarked, his voice retaining that small tremble. When he confronted her, it always did. I wanted something easy, and Jennifer did too. Ivan's laughter sounded like glass shattering. Oh, sweetie, nothing in our family is straightforward. You are aware of that. She fixed her gaze on mine. Isn't that correct, Jennifer? The first made an effort to grin. Naturally, Ivan, but sometimes basic may be pleasant. Max, the family CEO, cleared his throat. Speaking of refreshing, the quarterly numbers are looking exceptional. Jennifer, I saw the marketing tips you sent over, really. Now, Ivan, cut in. Let's not bore everyone with business talk. Besides, I'm sure Jennifer has enough on her plate managing the household. She paused, eyeing my barely touched plate, though perhaps not as well as one might hope. Hope, my best friend and tonight's invited guest, shifted uncomfortably beside me, under the table. She gave me a secret signal to maintain my composure by squeezing my hand. Actually, I said, my heart pounding but my voice firm, I've been quite busy with several personal projects. How beautiful, Ivan drooled. It's really vital to have interests. Speaking of which, you remember Chelsea, don't you? Maxwell's niece. These days, she's accomplishing amazing things in business law. She is going to the anniversary celebration. I felt sick to my stomach when she emphasized Chelsea's name. I'd met her once. Young, beautiful, and exactly the kind of woman Yvonne had always wanted for her son. Chelsea? Landon scowled. I haven't seen her since we were youngsters. Oh, said Yvonne. She's become a very successful woman. Hampton summer residence for Harvard law students. Family money, of course. The type of contacts that might genuinely improve our family's future. I placed down my glass before I could smash it. Our marriage is being celebrated with the celebration. Yvonne. It lasted for 7 years. Yes, she thought, wiping her lips on her napkin. 7 long years. Time does have a way of clarifying things, doesn't it? Hope cleared her throat. Jennifer, didn't you want to show me that painting in the study? The most recent one? Grabbing the lifeline, I did. Indeed. In fact, could you all just pardon us for a moment? We barely made it to the study when Hope swung around. She has a plan. Something enormous. I am aware. I fell into the leather recliner, my hands trembling. The way she continued talking about Chelsea, about the future. You must explain your plan to Landon. Prior to this celebration and whatever she is planning, Hope urged. I gave a headshake. Not quite yet. The acquisition isn't final. She's attempting to replace you with a business Barbie who most likely color codes her sock drawer if information gets out too soon, Jen. Let her try. I straightened my clothing and got to my feet. In precisely 4 weeks, everything is already underway. Evan Willis is going to understand what it feels like to be the one without power. Hope's gaze expanded. Are you actually carrying it out? Do you remember what she told me over Christmas last year? I should be thankful that they allowed me to wed Landon at all. That some individuals are simply not suited for particular groups. I made my way to the window while seeing the flickering city lights below. Well, I'm ready to buy my way into every circle she holds dear. The voice of Jennifer Landon echoed from the corridor. Our mother is requesting us. I turned to Hope. I clenched my jaw. For the time being, it's time to return to being the obedient daughter-in-law. As we moved back to the dining room, Evan's voice floated out, debating seating arrangements with unexpected excitement. I heard the phrases special announcement and head table. Let her arrange her dream celebration. Let her think she's finally found a way to force me out. I wouldn't simply interrupt her well-planned party in 4 weeks. I would possess it, literally. All I could hope was that Landon would see why I had to do it this way. Why? 7 years of subtle humiliation and skillfully designed isolation had led me to this point. This anniversary would, in one form or another, signal the end of Yvonne Willis's rule over our lives and the start of my. The documentation appears to be reliable. Eugene spread materials on his mahogany desk and adjusted his wire-rimmed glasses. However, Jennifer, are you certain about this? For 30 years, the family has trusted me to represent them. My luxury jacket, a recent indulgence I'd finally given myself, crinkled a little as I leaned forward. Eugene, that's precisely why I came to you. Every skeleton in their closet, you know. He made an awkward, shuffling motion. The purchase is legal. The offers made by your shell businesses are more than reasonable. But there was deceit in the deception. I took out my phone and browsed through the saved screenshots, including the one from 3 years ago, when Yvonne attempted to change my prenuptial agreement without my knowledge. The same prenuptial agreement that you refused to change because, in your words, it was unethical. Eugene's cheeks turned red. Wasn't that different? As a witness, I slipped the finished contract across his desk. Or, Eugene, someone will, I'll find. Hope's shoes clicked against the wooden floor as the door opened. I apologize for being late. Traffic was crazy. She took a moment to scan the room. Was the fun part lost on me? Perfect timing, I remarked. Eugene was on the verge of signing. Hope took out her iPad and sank into the chair next to me. You must see these figures when you end up here. The IT division's worth is significantly larger than we imagined. Jen, your little business didn't merely prosper. It is on the verge of becoming a significant player. I gave myself permission to smile a little. I had been secretly developing my business for 3 years, beginning with a little bequest from my grandmother. Yvonne believed that I was going to charity luncheons and taking cookery lessons. In reality, I was attracting investors and creating groundbreaking software. The page there was scraped by Eugene's pen. It's finished. His demeanor was solemn as he gazed up at me. The family will know within days that someone's buying their shares. Once the acquisition is finalized, you can't turn back. Excellent. I finished moving backwards, so I collected the papers and slipped them into my briefcase. Hope didn't shriek until we were inside the elevator. It's unbelievable that we managed to get from that small office over my garage to this. She took hold of my hands. One of the biggest IT firms on the East Coast is going to become yours. We have yet to celebrate. Despite my warning, I couldn't resist smiling. We must first. I froze when the elevator doors opened. Landon stood in the foyer, engaged in discussion with Max. Quick Hope muttered, "Be natural." Jennifer Landon seems taken aback. "Why are you here?" Hope needed to deliver some divorce-related paperwork. I lied with ease. I came to get moral support. Max gave an empathetic nod. It's a nasty business, separation. Speaking of business, Landon, let's wrap up our conversation on those board modifications. It's what your mother suggested. My ears pricked up. Changes to the board? Nothing tangible, Landon said hastily. Just a few suggestions for rearrangement. Mother believes that new ideas are needed. Between us, Max finished. Her timing is unclear to me. The business is performing better than it has in the past. Hope held on to my arm. It's time for us to start. As we rushed out, we had a ton of paperwork to do. You know, your wife's got quite a head for business, Max said. Last month's marketing proposal was excellent. Perhaps we ought to think about it. The doors outside closed before he could finish speaking. At last, I released the breath I had been suppressing. It came really close. I hope, she said. Did you hear that, though? Just prior to the takeover, they are making changes to the board. It can't have happened by accident. I called for a cab. No, it cannot. Ivan is tampering with the company structure while organizing a lavish celebration for that anniversary. I took my phone out. Give Eugene a call. Instruct him to hurry up with everything. I want the purchase to be finished before that gathering. How about Landon? Will you ever let him know? I recalled how he had always glanced aside, including during dinner, while I watched the city flash by outside the cab window. He will soon find out. All of them will. And if he is unable to comprehend, if he agrees with them, I felt like I was punched in the stomach by the question. Then my husband will be gone. I'll have maintained my dignity, I said gently. And perhaps, just possibly, I will have gained his admiration. Hope clasped my hand. For what it's worth, I think you're doing the right thing. Sometimes the only way to mend a faulty system is to break it totally. It buzzed on my phone. A note from Ivan concerning final party plans. Eugene confirmed that the paperwork was being processed with another buzz. The acquisition would be finished in 2 weeks. The celebration is in 3 weeks. After 7 years of smiling through planned exclusion and subtle insults, it was almost time for my patience to pay off. All I could hope for was that the cost wouldn't be excessive. Decorators were busy transforming the top-floor event room for tomorrow's pre-party board meeting, and the Willis corporate offices was buzzing with extraordinary excitement. I stood close to the service door and watched as Yvonne gave military-style instructions to workers. "Where do the flowers go?" "No, not those ones," she said to a florist who appeared anxious. "The pink flowers are for tomorrow. The white ones are for the major event next week." "Is everything all right?" I jumped when Max came up next to me. "You appear to be deep in thinking." "Yvonne's attention to detail is admirable," he laughed. "That's one way to phrase it. Listen, Jennifer, have a moment? I've been intending to talk about something." I followed him to his office, my heart pounding. If he had found anything, the purchase was almost finished. Now, though, one mistake may wreck everything. He sat behind his desk and said, "Close the door. Yvonne is causing me concern." Worried, I blinked. Lately, she has been acting strangely, calling urgent board meetings and proposing drastic changes to the leadership. He gave his temples a massage. She instructed me to move a sizable portion of the company's shares to a trust she is setting up this morning. Did she explain why? Something about securing the family's future. However, the timing seems strange. We've never made more money. I'm grateful for the marketing tactics you recommended. I forced a neutral expression. "Have you talked to Landon about this?" Made an effort. "But you know how he gets when it comes to his mother." Max leaned forward. "Actually, I wanted to run something past you. What would you think about becoming more involved with the company?" Before I could reply, there was a knock. Landon stuck his head in. "Mother's looking for you, Max." "Something about the seating arrangements." "God help me," Max murmured, rising. "Jennifer, consider what I said. Someone with your insight would be helpful to us." As he departed, Landon inspected my face. "What was the purpose of that?" "Nothing significant," I said hastily. "Only the specifics of the party." "You've changed recently," he remarked quietly. "Far away. Is everything all right?" For a minute, I wanted to tell him everything about the firm I'd developed, the purchase, his mother's manipulation. Then Ivan's words echoed down the corridor. "Landon, you're there. Chelsea just got here. Come greet me." His expression brightened. "Chelsea's here. It's been ages since I last saw her." My stomach turned over. "Proceed. Avoid making them wait." I slipped into the empty boardroom next door once I was by myself. Through the slender wall, from the event venue, I could hear voices. Returning is the wayward daughter. Ivan spoke with a warmth that I had never experienced from her. "Landon, doesn't Chelsea look gorgeous?" "Harvard Law is undoubtedly in agreement with her." "You look fantastic," Landon concurred. "How long are you staying through next week's festivities at least?" Chelsea answered. "Ivan is planning a lavish party." "Yes," Ivan said. "Enormous plans." "Max, sweetheart, you're there. We must talk about such share transactions right away." I remained motionless while their voices drifted away. Transfers of shares. The way Ivan stressed grandiose intentions throughout Chelsea's prolonged stay. It buzzed on my phone. Hope texted. "Eugene says acquisition paperwork is ready. We are ahead of time. Are you certain about this?" Another voice floated through the wall, Max speaking in low tones. "Eugene, I don't like it. The secret gatherings, these hasty adjustments. There's a problem." Eugene answered wearily. "Miss S. Willis is within her legal rights, though perhaps the timing is unfortunate. Unfortunately, she is concentrating on making a surprise announcement at a party, while the company undergoes its largest change in years." I'd had enough. I almost bumped into Chelsea as I stepped into the corridor. "Jennifer." Her grin was pleasant. "I hoped we would cross paths. Ivan has told me a lot." "Has she?" I grinned back at her. "It's funny. She hasn't told me much about you. Oh, you'll find out all you need to know. She put her hand on my arm. I'd want for us to become friends. After all, we're both so invested in this family's future. My phone buzzed once more before I could reply. I hope this is an emergency call. I said, "Excuse me," and started to go. I must do this in the elevator seclusion. I gave Hope a call. She stated without introduction that they were advancing the board meeting to tomorrow AM. I just heard it from Eugene. What? Why? Before the party, there was a vote on significant structural changes. General, they cannot restructure before the purchase is finished. I hit the lobby button harder than required. Give Eugene a call. Inform him that tonight is our execution. Whatever it takes, I don't care. Are you certain? When the elevator doors close, there's no turning back after we've moved. I saw the countryside one final time and heard someone laughing. Ivan watched them with contented eyes and whispered, "Chelsea, I'm sure," I said. "It's time to terminate this game." It seemed like a powder keg about to blow up at the emergency board meeting. As Yvonne conducted court at the head of the table, I sat in my customary corner, watching board members fill in. Chelsea was prominently positioned at the right hand. Ivan declared, "I'd like to properly introduce Chelsea before we start. For our next transitions, she will be working with us as a legal consultant." Max made an uncomfortable change. "Transitions on which we have not yet cast our votes. Merely formalities." Ivan waved her hand dismissively. Now, the door to the boardroom sprang open to discuss the share transactions. With a hot face, Eugene rushed in, holding a pile of papers. "I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's an urgent issue." "It can wait," Ivan interrupted him. "We have something significant. It cannot wait." Eugene's voice was unusually forceful as he urged. "The business has been presented with a legally binding offer to buy." Murmurs broke out throughout the room. Landon looked up abruptly from his phone. "What? Impossible," Ivan spat out. "Would anyone dare? A tech consortium." Eugene continued distributing documents. "They've already obtained majority shareholder backing. The transaction is successfully completed." As Ivan studied the documents, I saw the color drain from her cheeks. It's an all-out takeover," Max concluded, his low whistling. "And it's a very fantastic offer at these figures." "But the time," Chelsea interrupted, mask of sweetness faltering. "We can wait, surely?" "I'm afraid not," Eugene said. "The paperwork was finished yesterday night. The official announcement is the only thing left." Landon was still looking at the acquisition papers. "What's happening on, Mother?" "Nothing," Ivan snapped. "This is obviously incorrect. Aggressive takeover effort that will smash instantly." "Chelsea, call your business, actually." I stood up, my heart pumping, but my voice firm. "It's not even hostile. The majority of shareholders cast their votes voluntarily." "Eugene, isn't that correct?" There was silence in the room. Everybody turned to face me. "Jennifer," Landon's tone faltered. "What are your knowledge on this?" "She has no knowledge," Ivan growled. "She is just the wife who, right in front of you, created a digital empire. You were organizing weddings and celebrations when I finished. I was planning something very different." The papers crumbled in Chelsea's immaculately manicured palm. "You're playing a bluff." I brought out my phone, projecting my company's portfolio onto the boardroom screen. 3 years, 15 patents, over 200 people. Additionally, the company's controlling ownership as of last night. "No," Ivan said. No, indeed." I looked straight at her. "Did you truly believe that I would merely wait for you to try to replace me? Instead, you want to use our anniversary celebration land to unveil my husband's new future." His chair fell backwards so fast. "What?" Chelsea at least had the decency to seem ashamed. "I can explain, Landon. Do not bother." I sliced through the papers. "Tell the complete narrative. Your legal firm's involvement. The trust fund, Yvonne, was established in your name. The intended announcement during the celebration." Mother Landon's voice was deadly quiet. "Is this accurate?" Ivan's composure snapped. "I was attempting to protect you, to ensure your future with someone worthy of this family." He turned to Chelsea and ambushed me at my anniversary celebration. "And you accepted this?" Chelsea argued that it wasn't like that. "You were upset because you want what I wanted, according to Yvonne." Landon cut him off. "None of you have ever cared about it, have you?" Max cleared his throat. "Maybe we ought to concentrate on the purchase." Yes, let's become the new majority shareholder, I said. I'm going to call an urgent vote. Restructuring the board is the first thing on the agenda. This is impossible, Ivan growled. I've done so already. I gave out further documents. Chelsea, you'll discover that your severance benefits are more than plenty. You can probably figure out a way out on your own. Landon, Yvonne begged. Put an end to her. However, Landon looked at me as if I had never been there before. You were creating a firm all this time? Indeed. And you didn't tell me because I had something to prove. I looked him in the eye. To them. To you. To myself. The room held its breath. This moment balanced 7 years of marriage. At last, Landon grinned. I suppose it means you are now my boss. To be honest, I couldn't resist grinning in return. Now I'm in charge of everyone. Yvonne's hands smacked down on the table. It's not over yet. Yes, but it is. I collected my belongings. Board meeting adjourned. Don't worry about the anniversary celebration, Yvonne. I'll manage the arrangements from here. Max mumbled something as I strode out. I refer to that as a hostile takeover. I felt really free for the first time in 7 years. In our penthouse, the quiet was overwhelming. Landon had remained silent the entire drive home, and now he was standing by the window, sipping his drink and observing the flickering city lights below. Say something. At last, I broke the stillness. Please. His face was inscrutable as he turned. 3 years. You secretly built an empire for 3 years? I was unable to inform you. He interrupted me before I could finish. Let me finish, please. He placed down his glass. I've seen my mother disparage you for 3 years. Of my being silent. You couldn't tell me, of course. That was unexpected. You're not upset? Furious? There was no humor in his laughter. I'm angry with myself, my mother, and the entire situation. He combed his hair with his hand. However, at you. You did precisely what I should have done, so how can I be upset? Years in the past? The moment was cut short as the doorbell rang. Before I could respond, Hope rushed in. Your phones are blowing up. She gestured with her tablet. The business news is getting nuts. Unknown tech entrepreneur purchases industry titan. A mysterious woman destroys the family business. You're popular. Hope, whispered Landon softly. May I ask for a moment? Oh, okay. Apologies. She took a step back toward the door. But Jen, call me later. Ivan is already acting. Landon poured another drink once she had gone. Moving. Would you mind explaining? I acknowledged that she has contacted 3 separate legal companies in an attempt to contest the transaction, but it has failed. It's all legal. I did not mean that. He turned to face me. What actions does she have against us? In opposition to you? It buzzed on my phone. Eugene texted. Yvonne is seeking to prevent access to the anniversary celebration location and freeze family assets. She's trying to shut me out, like she normally does. I showed him the message. Lantern's mouth clenched. The celebration is still going on. Everyone who works in the business sector must be present. The ideal setting for embarrassing my mother and announcing the new corporate strategy. I looked him in the eye. Would that be that incorrect? What was she going to do to us? He remained silent for a while. What hurts the most, do you know? Nor the takeover, nor the covert business. It's because I didn't see it. Any of it. The manipulation of my mother. Your capacity. I didn't see any of it. You got what you were hoping for. I said quietly. All of us did. Once more, the doorbell rang. It was Max this time. I apologize for interrupting. He looked between us uneasily. However, Jennifer, we must discuss strategy. The members of the board are divided. Some are requesting urgent meetings. Others are making resignation threats. Let them, I responded. With those who share our goal, we will rebuild. Our vision? Max's eyebrows went up. Unless you also intend to resign. He smiled. Are you serious? We haven't experienced this level of enthusiasm in years. I'm in. Excellent. I brought out my laptop because I need your help preparing the celebration. Jennifer Landon cut in. Are you certain before we proceed? There is no turning back once we make all the announcements public. No making amends with my mother. Landon. I put my hand on his arm. At our anniversary celebration, your mother was going to reveal that you would marry someone else. I believe that our reconciliation is over. Max's drink suffocated him. She would. What? Asked Chelsea. Even though she may be busy updating her resume, I replied dryly. Once more, My phone buzzed. I hoped to provide office security camera footage. Yvonne was organizing her workspace. Chelsea is assisting her with file packing. Max noted that they're not moving in silence. Excellent. Since neither am I shut down my laptop. To my surprise, Landon put his arm around my waist. Let's do this correctly then. Make it an unforgettable celebration. You're with me. I scanned his face. I ought to have joined you right away. He gave me a forehead kiss. It's better late than never. Max cleared his throat. We have a situation to handle, no matter how heartwarming this is. Statements are being demanded by the media. The stockholders are in a frenzy. I told them to panic. They'll know exactly why this modification was necessary by this time next week. There was another message on my phone. Ivan, you have no clue what you've begun. Landon took the phone and wrote the response once I showed it to him. For once, we know precisely what we're doing, Mother. For the first time in our marriage, I saw my husband truly pay attention to Max as he started to outline damage control techniques. Without the weight of his mother's expectations, he stood erect. In order to create something better, sometimes everything must be destroyed. All I could hope for was that we were creating something more robust than what we had destroyed. We had to organize a party first, though. What are you saying? My access has been refused. I gazed at the guards stationed at the entrance to the huge ballroom in the square. In less than an hour, the anniversary celebration was scheduled to begin, and visitors were already showing up. I apologize, ma'am. Mrs. Yvonne had expressly updated the list this morning, but he checked his iPad once more. You're not on it. Hope took hold of my arm. This is beyond her capabilities. The business is yours. Her name is still on the venue contract. As Yvonne led caterers inside, I noticed that I was looking through the glass doors. She caught my sight and smiled, offering a tiny wave. It buzzed on my phone. Landon is trapped in traffic. It's Mom's fault. Your mother's barred me out of our own anniversary party. I responded to the SMS. Chelsea strode by us into the ballroom, not even bothering to disguise her grin, and all of the petty, vengeful optimism halted in the middle of her tirade. That's all. I took my phone out. We need that contingency plan now, Max. 10 minutes later, Max came with Eugene in tow. They both appear stressed. The location is unyielding. According to Max, Evans threatened to sue them if they allowed you entry without her consent, which she is legally able to do. The contract was inserted by Eugene. The contract doesn't matter to me. I interrupted him. This is my company announcement and anniversary celebration. I will not allow her to prevail. We saw a ruckus at the entryway. When Landon came, he appeared enraged. Where is she? The security officer didn't dare stop him as he bounded by him. Mom. Before anyone could protest, I followed him. The ballroom looked beautiful, with Hope and Max just behind it. White roses everywhere, crystal chandeliers, just as Yvonne had intended. But now, with Chelsea by her side and champagne in hand, she was in the middle of the stage. Landon, sweetheart. Yvonne was just in time to call out. We were ready to get started. What do you start? My wife was humiliated by his demand, ruining our union. Visitors looked at phones that were already recording. Yvonne desired this very much. A controversy, a scene, something to make me seem bad. I'm just safeguarding the interests of our family, Yvonne replied with ease, following that hostile takeover. Antagonism? Like I was about to announce my husband's new engagement at our anniversary dinner. I chuckled, grabbing everyone's attention. Gasps swept across the audience. Yvonne stood her position, but Chelsea retreated a step. Security, she yelled. This lady is intruding. Max moved ahead despite two guards approaching. As the interim CEO, I can actually attest that Miss S. Jennifer is in the ideal position. Yvonne's voice increased. You're siding with her. Max replied, I'm siding with progress. Something you could attempt at some point. The guards paused and glanced at each other. Oh, for heaven's sake, Yvonne snapped. All right, remain. You should seem foolish. However, I still have an announcement to make, and this is my party. She turned to speak to the assembly. However, first, Landon, take the microphone. Yes, Mama. Let's announce things. Let us all know how you attempted to control my marriage. How you intend to ambush us tonight. How you've tried to snuff out the finest thing that has ever occurred to this family for 7 years. The best thing? Yvonne laughed. She took our company. No. I stepped forward. I created something superior to your business. The kind of stuff that will truly change the world. And I did it while you were too busy plotting my successor to notice. Hope showed up with a laptop and connected it to the projection system in the ballroom. The enormous screens displayed the portfolio of my business, the future goals, the patents, and the breakthroughs. I spoke to the astonished audience. Ladies and gentlemen, greetings from Willis Technologies' future. A future based on merit rather than coercion. Not on inheritance, but on invention. Reporters in the throng began taking notes as phones flashed. Yvonne had not planned this controversy. It was superior. "You can't do this," Yvonne said in a tremulous voice. "I've done so already." Landon's hand was mine. "Happy anniversary to us. You may also want to check your email, Mommy. We are awaiting your letter of resignation." As Yvonne remained still, her ideal party disintegrating around her, Chelsea slid away through the mob. Max, however, lifted his glass. "I think we should raise a glass to Willis Technologies' new CEO." As the audience raised their glasses, the atmosphere changed from one of scandal to one of joy, drawing me in and saying, "I love you and I'm so damn proud of you." Yvonne's face had become white instead of crimson. With a hiss, she paused before grabbing her bag and leaving. "It's not over yet. Motherland, in fact, and named her after her. It is, for once." Around us, the celebration was starting up again, but with a completely different vibe. I felt hope grasp my hand, worth being locked out for. I observed Avon pulling back. My burden of helplessness after 7 years is finally being lifted, worth every moment. I watched the sun rise over the city while sitting at what had been Yvonne's desk the morning after the party. They were all over the headlines. A business coup results from a family crisis involving tech's newest power figure, daughter-in-law. Delightful retaliation. My thoughts were interrupted by a knock on the door. Max came in with 2 coffee mugs. He gave me a cup and said, "The vultures are circling. Every national news organization is interested in an interview. 3 rival businesses have already inquired about possible mergers, and the shareholders are calling for meetings." "Let them wait," I said, turning up the company's internal message system. "First, we need to take care of more pressing matters. The bulk email. Are you certain about this? Every worker has a right to know their current status." Thousands of alerts spread around the organization as soon as I clicked send. My phone began to ring within minutes. Hope exploded, taking a tablet. "It's functioning. The employee forums are bursting. People at their workstations are sobbing. Tears of joy." Recalling what I had written, I grinned. "All workers, regardless of status, are entitled to full benefits. Parental leave, doubled. Pay equity reviews for daycare on site." All of which Yvonne had written off as needless indulgence. My assistant, Miss S. Jennifer, stuck her head in. "For the emergency meeting, the board members are coming in. Show them in the boardroom," filled in a flash. While some faces were thrilled, others were anxious. A few chairs sat conspicuously empty. Yvonne. Protesting supporters who had quit. I appreciate everyone's attendance. I stood at the head of the table. I understand that change may be frightening, unsettling. An elder board member broke the silence. He spoke up from his seat, upending decades of customs that weren't functioning land. "Or did you overlook the innovation rankings from the previous quarter? The figures are honest." Max continued, handing out reports. "We've been stagnating. Jennifer's and other tiny businesses have been transforming the sector." Speaking of figures, fresh projections appeared on the displays as I clicked a button. Our growth projections under the new structure are as follows. Have you noticed anything? As they examined the statistics, the room became quiet. The doubters themselves appeared pleased. "This is a bold move." At last, someone said. I clarified that it's required. We're not only switching around the leadership, our culture is evolving. I started by revealing the following slide. An entire chart of reorganization. Minorities and women in important roles. Innovative young people were promoted. The old guard retired or redistributed. You can't. Just. There was another demonstration. I can, in fact, but I won't. I smiled, because every person in this room has 48 hours to prove why they deserve to be part of our future. Show me your worth, not your voting shares. The door exploded. Flustered, Eugene hurried in. "Jennifer, there's a problem." An injunction was sought by Evan, already taken care of. With a wave of her tablet, Hope broke in. 10 minutes ago, the judge threw it out. It seems that he dislikes pointless litigation by humiliated business leaders. It buzzed on my phone. Chelsea texted, "Can we have a private conversation? Lift her up." I added, telling my assistant to the board. The meeting was adjourned. "You have 48 hours. Make them matter." As the room cleared, Chelsea entered. The polished corporate lawyer was vanished. She seemed worn out. "Human. I apologize," she said right away. "I never meant Ivan," stated. Landon was sad that the firm required rescue. "Save it, I didn't know," I interrupted her. "Chelsea, too. You are an excellent lawyer. Brilliant to be someone else's pawn." She blinked. "What?" "I'm giving you an option. Leave with Yvonne. Chase her vendetta or stay. Lead our new legal division and truly have an impact. Do you believe me? After everything, trust is earned, like deference. I gave a contract to her. You have an option." She gazed at the page for a long period. Then, straightening her shoulder, she pulled out a pen. "Wonderful decision," commented Landon, who had been discreetly observing from the doorway. "Landon," Chelsea began. "No need to apologize. Simply said, perform better." Landon drew me into his embrace after she departed. "Mother will continue to fight, you know. Let her try. She didn't have what we have." "What is that?" "People who genuinely think we're doing the right thing." Once more, my phone buzzed. Ivan's phone number. I didn't answer the phone. He reminded me that the press was waiting below, all set to take on the cameras. I glanced around to see what had changed. My workplace, my business, and my future. "I really had a better idea," I said. "Max, call a gathering of all employees at all levels of the organization. They need to hear directly from their new CEO." Ivan Hope then inquired. "Like everyone else, she can watch it on the news." I didn't care what Ivan thought for the first time in 7 years. I had to manage a business, transform a culture, and create a future, and this was only the start. As I walked across the refurbished courtyard of our corporate offices, the aroma of coffee from the new staff cafe filled the fall wind. As I had imagined, workers were lounging on contemporary benches, with computers open, openly collaborating. My life was revolutionized when a young programmer named Miss S. Jennifer waived the new maternity leave rules. In fact, I get to see my child grow up. Remembering what Yvonne had said, I grinned. Sentiment has no place in business. Hope greeted me at the elevator inside. "All set for this. Is anybody ever prepared to appear in court with their mother-in-law?" Max and Chelsea were holding legal documents. As the elevator opened, Chelsea stated that she was already there, accompanied by a public relations team and 3 attorneys. "Of course she is." I fixed my jacket. "Let's get this over with." As we walked into the courthouse, media were everywhere. Landon was already sitting in the first row when I looked over. When he noticed me adjusting his tie, the one I had given him, on our first anniversary, he stood up. Before the judge arrived, he remarked softly, "Mom is asking for one last meeting." I gave a nod. "Where?" "What is a conference room?" "Inside, she is waiting." Ivan sat by herself, appearing smaller in some way, and without her typical group of friends. In recent months, she had become older, with new wrinkles around her eyes as a result of the stress. "Are you gloating now?" she inquired. "No." She was seated across from me. "Let's get this over with." "And this." Bitterly, she laughed. "You took away my legacy, my kid, and my business. I developed something better than your legacy," I interjected. "Are the quarterly reports visible to you?" "Our rate of invention has tripled. The level of employee satisfaction has never been higher. Even the figures for the stock price." She spat. "You only give a damn about it." In fact, I showed her a company's social media feed on my phone. "I care about individuals like Miguel in tech, whose green energy project is transforming our carbon footprint, or Sarah in accounting, who can now finally afford her son's medical care, or sufficient." She slapped her fist on the table. "What are you looking for?" "For what I've always seen, you should see. That this business may be more than a family business. It could actually have an impact. Was my son only a component of your grand scheme?" From the doorway, Mother Landon said. He had not entered that, I had heard. "Don't you know better than that?" Her voice broke. "I have lost all knowledge." I took a paper out of my briefcase and reached inside. "You do indeed. You are aware of the futility of this case. We're doing a good job, you know. You are aware that I am giving you an option." She gazed at the document. "What is this?" "A job as a consultant? Just a suggestion. No executive authority. but your contacts and experience. If you're prepared to cooperate with us rather than work against us, they could still be advantageous to the business. How come you would give me anything? Because, in contrast to you, I don't think that destroying people is a good way to advance. Yvonne, I respected your decision. Continue to fight until you lose everything. Could assist us in creating something greater than either of us had envisioned. There was a long pause. After reading the child care center carefully, she finally picked up the document. Abruptly, she said, "The one on the East Campus that you are constructing. Improved security procedures are required." I am aware. I grinned a little. We could really use that type of information. She glanced at me and then back at Landon. She grabbed for a pen slowly. "I want one thing in return if I sign this," she said. "Call it Sunday dinners with my daughter-in-law and son." Landon gave my hand a squeeze. I gave a nod. Deal. Reporters screamed outside as we all emerged. Chelsea spoke to them right away. An acceptable deal has been achieved by all parties. No more comments. Hope was waiting with champagne back at the office. Please put an arm around me and welcome me to fresh starts, family land, and correction. The ones we make and the ones we were born with. It buzzed on my phone. From Max East Campus, a message. Plans for childcare are on your desk. Evan has taken notes already. Do you think this will work? Silently, Hope inquired. Through the window of my office, I observed Evan interacting with our design team while making expressive gestures regarding security cameras. 7 years of conflict that ended with opportunity rather than devastation. Some things are more essential than winning, therefore it must, I remarked, like family land, and inquired, such as demonstrating that achievement need not be attained at the price of another person. I looked across at my spouse, as in demonstrating that sometimes the best form of retaliation isn't retaliation at all. It involves creating something so spectacular that your adversaries wish to participate. Hope smiled as she mentioned constructing. Hold off until you see the new designs for the Innovation Lab. In fact, your mother-in-law had some very great ideas. I chuckled. She did, of course. After all, she's family. And those words felt absolutely accurate for the first time.